What's up guys, thank you all for clicking on this video and watching. Today I'm going to be doing a deep dive into my arrow builds this year for 2024 and talk a little bit about my bow and how I've set it up for the way that I hunt. But before we get going, if you want to help support the channel, I really would appreciate it. Go down there, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share this video with your friends. Also, I have brand new designs on some sweatshirts. I got new Rutcation 2024 t-shirt. I have hats in stock. It's all down on the link. Click the link in the description. It'll take you right to the shop page. You can purchase right there online. It's a lot easier than last year when you guys were having to send me Venmo payments. So go down there, hit the link, go shop. I really would appreciate it. So I'm gonna take you guys into my hunting room here and start talking about my arrow build for this year, 2024. So like I was saying in the intro, I'm going to be talking about my arrow build this year for 2024. This year I'm going to be shooting the GrizzlyStik Momentum TDT. So this arrow is actually built by Victory Archery for GrizzlyStik. I'll talk a little bit about the specs of the arrow first and then kind of dive into GrizzlyStik's philosophy and why it kind of aligned with what I wanted to try out this year in particular. So the most unique thing about the Momentum TDT is that it is a tapered design. I believe it tapers down from where you screw in your broadhead all the way down to the tip. I believe that's the way it tapers. I've never heard of another tapered arrow design. I think GrizzlyStik kind of claims that it has better penetration, better flight, and less drag on the arrow. One thing I definitely noticed right out of the bat when I got a test pack to shoot was these things fly like darts. Like as soon as I shot them, especially with field points when I was just testing them out, I mean, it was like no movement at all, no wiggle. It was just straight at the target. I also tested out a bunch of broadheads to see which one flew the best, and I'll talk about those next. But this product is made by Victory for GrizzlyStik, tapered design. One of the things I like about it is the insert and outsert. It's a double threaded insert, so you have your thread for your broadhead or field point. There's a thread on the inside as well, so if you wanted to add weight to it, you just pull the knock off. There's a tool that you could put a weight on and put it down the shaft of the arrow and thread that into the threads on this side to add more weight to it. And then the outsert. I don't know why every manufacturer of arrows doesn't make an outsert cap. Every arrow that I shoot, even my gold tips and my day 6 arrows, I've always shot arrows with outserts on them. I don't know why you wouldn't make it. I love the idea of just protecting the end that goes into the target, the end that goes into the deer, turkey, whatever. And all these are options on their website. You can have them epoxied, you could have it hot glued in so you can retrieve it if you want to take it out. So for my build specifically, the arrow itself is a 240 spine, which is definitely bigger. My gold tips I shot were 300. I think my day 6s were 300 as well. So this is definitely a stiffer spine, but that's because this arrow by itself without a point weighs 450 grains. So if you add my 200 grain point, the arrow that I'll be shooting this year is 650 grain build. I understand that that is like shooting a Lincoln log downrange. My philosophy, I feel like that aligns with GrizzlyStik is, you know, in the early season when I hunt the public land, I don't want to be shooting a deer and then having to run all over the place where I don't know looking for deer. So my whole idea was if I can get an arrow that is built like a tank and it's heavy, I want to be able to put 2 holes in that arrow or 2 holes in that deer, no matter what, no matter if I hit bone or whatever. And I want to be able to break that deer down as quickly as possible. And I think this arrow with my broadhead definitely achieves that goal. When I was talking to the guys at GrizzlyStik, he kind of made the point of speed guys that like speed. It's more of like a pushing motion to push your arrow through the deer. Whereas if you get a really heavy arrow build with very high FOC at the front, it's more of a pulling motion. And he was saying, you know, pulling something is a heck of a lot easier than having to push something through. So that made a lot of sense to me. And I've just kind of realized the way that I hunt, you know, I find myself in very high stick count setups, very brushy timber type setups. And to have anything outside 35 yards for a shot or even 30 yards is very rare. Everything's been about 28, 25 and in. That's kind of what I think this arrow and this build is specifically designed for, is those close range, close quarter, hit them. If you need to shoot them in both shoulders, this should probably penetrate through both shoulders. Break that deer down. Don't let them run far. Close quarter shooting. That's exactly why I wanted this. On the note of shooting both shoulders, the point that I'll be running is the 200 grain Messiah point. I've always kind of been a little hesitant on shooting these, to me it looks like a wind catcher. I mean, there's no vents. It's just a piece of metal, single bevel, a lot of area that I feel like could catch wind. And like I said, when I had the starter pack, I tried out a bunch of different points that were vented. This one flew the best. It flew like a dart on this particular build. It is a single bevel, so there's only one cutting edge. It's flat on the other side, and it's angled only on one side. And the idea of that, like I was saying on, shooting stuff short range, if you shoot a deer in the shoulder, that is meant to split bone. It acts as a wedge, and with that much FOC in the front, you hit the bone, it's going to blow through, and ideally blow through the other shoulder. So this is a great arrow. Very, very tough, hard to break. Dense walls. I'm really excited to try this out. I used it last year, but I only had one shot at a deer last year with it there in northern Missouri, and I hit it a little back. But yeah, I'm excited to get this out in the woods and hopefully get some testing on some real life scenarios, shoot some does, some bucks maybe, and see how it does. So next I'm going to grab my bow. I'm going to take y'all out in the backyard, do a little shooting, and kind of tell you how I set my bow up specifically for these arrows and the way that I hunt. One of the most significant changes I made starting last year, this was the first year I used that, was a single pin sight. The way that I've set it up, I've kind of made it a little bit foolproof. With the heavier arrows too, the sight tapes didn't quite work for my arrow builds because they're so heavy, and the arrow is definitely slower, which I would say is probably a con if you are like a field edge hunter and you take 40, 50 yard shots often. The arrow is significantly slower and it might not be as effective. Well, not that it wouldn't be effective, it's just that the deer would have a lot more time to react from the time you shoot to whenever the arrow actually arrives at the deer. So what I've done is I've set this first pin, which on my sight tape is like 29, almost basically 30 yards on this sight tape, but that's basically my 20, I think it's about 26 yards. It should be dead on at 26 yards. On that pin setup, I can shoot anything literally under my stand out to about 28. I could push it to about 30 yards. I'd have to aim a little bit higher though. But what that does is it takes my mind out of the whole equation of hunting and where do I need to put my pin. It's the last thing I need to think about. I just know where my 30-yard trees are as soon as I get set up in my stand. Anything within that range, I just don't even worry about my pin. I just put the pin on the high heart position, and if they're under my stand, it's going to be double lung. If they're out at 28 yards and I aim at the high heart and they drop a little bit, you're going to hit high heart. I made a mark on that for 26, and then I made one more mark that's about like my 33-yard range. If a deer is kind of more settled, maybe they're feeding on acorns and they're out there about 30, 31 yards, something like that, I'd go ahead and slowly make my adjustment to my 33-yard sight marking, comfortably take the shot. That'll go out to probably about 35 yards, and that's going to be my max from here on out. And if I even have a 35-yard shot, I would be shocked. But with this particular setup, I feel very confident, like I said, under my stand out to about 35 yards. And I take my brain out of the entire equation. Once I know he's either inside 30 or, anywhere from 30 to 35, set the dial and forget about it. And if I happen to move that dial to that 33-yard mark and he comes closer, it's still fine. I mean, I'm going to be a little high. You just aim a little bit lower. You're still going to kill that deer. So that's my setup. I'm going to take a few shots here, and yeah, hopefully this is something that maybe helps you out if you've had trouble with target panic or overthinking a shot and distance and having to worry about ranging every 5 seconds to see where the deer's at. This will really help you get your mind out of the whole shot so you can focus on where you want to make that shot on that deer.